Ya, silakan Mas. Oh, sudah ya? Hey Alexandra.
Hello.
Hey. How are you?
Good, how are you? I miss you.
Yeah, it's been, I don't know, 2 years?
Too long.
Yeah. Mhm. So is everything good? Oh, by the way, thank you. Thank you for agreeing to do this visiting lecture. Let me just introduce you to the moderator and the MC.
Okay.
Uh, Video on, please. Yeah, this is, yeah, Mbak Fia, you can introduce yourself.
Hello, Alexandra.
You're still
Hi.
muted.
Hi, my name is Titillation, and I will be the moderator for our discussion today.
Thank you for moderating. I'm glad to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. And the topic is also interesting because I myself uh, is an influencer in
Oh, really?
Instagram. But
Oh
not
my
like
God.
every influencer. I'm promoting mental health awareness and also sometimes talking about philosophy in Instagram.
That's amazing. I can't wait to follow and like.
Thanks.
There's a lot of activity in the United States right now, I think generally, but my neighborhood is honking and yelling and dogs are barking. I don't know. It's election results coming in tonight, right? Because it's
Mhm.
election day in the US. So who knows what they're responding to? But there's a lot of activity. My dog is not happy about the election. I hope she stays quiet during the lecture though.
So basically, Alexandra, how long have you been research this um, titillations? How long have you been on research?
I would say I've been interested in Instagram for a long time now. I feel like I started doing early research on Instagram in 2017. Um, but so much has changed, I think, over the years. It's hard to keep up whenever you do research on the internet. So I hope I still sound relevant. I think the fun thing about internet research is a lot of times your students know more than you do, right? So you kind of teach each other. So I learn a
Mhm.
lot from my students too. I feel like I'm always continuously updating my views on what's going on Instagram. So, and TikTok, of course, is in the United States anyway, has almost surpassed has Instagram users. So, TikTok is the new frontier.
Yes.
Mhm. Yeah, right. By the way, Alexandra, help us to pronounce your last name correctly.
Jason,
So, yeah,
Jason, it looks
that's
harder to say than it is. Yeah. Believe me, people in the United States no, they don't know how to say it either. So, and there are actually, I'm not from Louisiana where we went to grad school, but
Mhm.
there are a lot of Chasins down there, but they say it in a totally different way. They
Right,
say
exactly.
yeah, more like French, but
Mhm,
my
mhm,
family says Chasin. We're like from the Northeast, I guess. So,
mhm, mhm. Yeah, and we have the head of the English department, Pak Oktiva Heri Chandra. So in Indonesia, we usually call men with Pak, it's like sir, and
okay.
women with Bu. So it's like Pak Heri, Pak Adi, Bu Flia, things like that, Alexandra. So
Okay.
yeah, this is the head of the English department.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, great to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Alexandra Chaisen. Am I correct?
Jason.
Yes,
Jason.
Okay.
perfect.
Thank you very much
Good.
for having you in this visiting lecture. And then I do really hope that will give you insight to our students, especially for those
I
who are
hope so.
interested in literary, especially.
Amazing. Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Yes.
Okay, shall we start?
Hello.
Well, some technical adjustment here, Alexandra.
No problem.
Can you hear me? You're frozen for a second.
I think the dean is still on the way to the office.
Hey, Alexandra.
I'm good. I'm ready to go whenever everyone's here.
Seems. Mhm. Yeah, we lost you for a few seconds. You're frozen.
Oh, you lost me?
Yeah, you were frozen for a few seconds on my screen. So
Oh, okay. I might have just been quiet. Can you hear everything okay now?
yeah.
Okay. I think
Yeah.
the Wi-Fi should be good, but if we have issues, I'll go to a different spot, maybe. See if that's better.
That's okay. I think it's good now. Just a couple of minutes. So tell us about what you do right now. So you're a lecturer, you basically a lecturer and administrator.
Right. It's an interesting position. It's there are not a lot of them in the United States in women, gender, and sexuality studies specifically. I think some English departments have a similar structure, for example, but basically I'm the associate chair of the program we have, interdisciplinary program in WGS. And then I also teach, and my teaching load is a little lighter than other lecturers on campus because I'm also doing the administrative stuff. It's a very fulfilling job. And I'm from Nashville, and went to the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. So I'm also kind of coming back to my home state and, you know, my alma mater and everything. So I like being back.
Right.
Um, and feeling like I'm part of my, home community again. So,
Mhm.
um, but yeah, no, it's a great school. And I think, the WGS program is growing and growing. It's becoming really popular on campus. So I've started like a careers group for our students, and we are introducing new courses all the time. And it's really a fun, dynamic job. So I'm really pleased with it.
Mhm. And how is it similar and different from the program in Louisiana in LSU?
Well, it's not a so, the WGS program is not a department presently. We don't have enough majors to be a
Mhm.
full department with tenured faculty. So all of our faculty come from other home departments and are sort
Mhm.
of affiliated with our program. And that makes for really interesting, people participating in research together. And a lot of, there's a large variety of faculty with different expertise coming to teach our courses and stuff like that. Yeah, we're not a department though. So hopefully
Mhm.
someday we'll be a department as big as the
Mhm.
English department at LSU, which is especially big. So I think LSU's English department is unusually large for an American English department. So
Mhm.
it'd be
Mhm.
nice to be like that someday.
Yeah, hopefully soon.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Okay, I think we can probably start in in a minute.
Bu Eta, I think the
Mhm.
dean is still on the way to the office. What do you
Okay,
think about that?
that's okay. Let me check. Yeah, we're going to have an opening speech from the dean, Alexandra. Let me make sure that he's, the dean is very busy with so many things to do at the same time.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
lately is a very, very busy person.
but he has agreed to open this visiting lecture. So let me just check with him. Is his...
Oh yeah, and then we got so many students joining our
Mhm.
visiting lecture this morning.
Uh-huh.
It's
Mhm.
amazing how many people are attending.
Mhm.
Yeah, from the start, it's about 40 students, and then they are coming soon after this. I think there
Mhm.
will be some other students.
Great.
Yeah, because the 7 o'clock class ends at 8:40. So those attending the 7 o'clock class should be with us soon.
No problem at all.
Mhm. Let me check.
Halo Pak Heri,
Halo, Mas.
halo Alexandra.
Good
Hi.
morning, Mas Hadi.
Halo Bu Ita.
Hello, Pak
Okay,
Adi.
okay. Can we start now?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The Honorable, the Dean of Faculty of Humanities, Professor Dr. Alamsah. The Honorable, the Head of the English Department, Dr. Oktifa Herichandra. The Honorable, the Speaker of this visiting lectures, Alexandra Chiesen, PhD. Good evening, Alexandra. The Honorable all lecturers, students, and participants that have joined today's visiting lecture agenda. First of all, let's thank God, Alhamdulillah, for blessing and goodness so that we can meet online in this visiting lecture today. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you in today's lecture hosted by English Department, Faculty of Humanities, Diponegoro University. This visiting lecture is adopting the topic Instagram and titillation. As we know, Instagram is very popular visual platform of social media used by many people in the world. The popularity of Instagram leads individuals to doing titillation, which refers to act of making other people excited, usually with visual image and description. Well, ladies and gentlemen, before getting started with the main agenda, I, Hadianto, the master of ceremony of this visiting lecture today, will read the rundown of this visiting lecture this morning. The first is opening ceremony, then the next visiting lecture, then the next session, question and answer session, then the last closing ceremony. Okay, without further delay, we go to the first session, opening ceremony. Before opening ceremony, let's listen to Indonesian national anthem. Okay, please. Okay, the next session is welcome speech that will be delivered by the Dean of the Faculty of Humanities, Professor Alamsa. Professor Dr. Alamsa, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Sadiando. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Excellencies, the honorable guest speakers, Ibu Alexandra Jason, PhD from the University of Tunisia. Thank you. Welcome to virtual Zoom meeting in Faculty of Humanity. Vice Dean Academic and Student Affairs, Australia, and then the head of English Literature, Bapak Dr. Tifa, moderator of this event. Welcome to all of you. Timely, fascinating conversation on a topic that is as relevant as it is provocative, Instagram and titillation. And the digital age, social media platform like Instagram have fundamental transform how and even the we are billions and some of the computer is not connects. Yeah. Okay. How we en how we engage with visual content that plays on our emotion and desires. Today, we are fortunate to have with us a guest speaker who is uniquely equipped to unpack this them and provide us with insightful analysis. And as we engage in this discussion, I encourage you all to thinking critically, ask questions, and reflect on how this concept resonate with your own experiences and observation in the digital world. Without further ado, it's pleasure to introduce Alexandria Kiesen PhD, who will guide us through this thought-provoking session. Dear Master, your insight. Thank you very much. And over to you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Alamsa, as the Dean of the Faculty of Humanities, Diponegoro University. And now we go on to the next session, that is the main agenda of visiting lecture that will be presented by Alexandra Chiesen, PhD. And this morning, we have a moderator that will guide the visiting lecture, that is Ibu Fitrilia Anjarsari, MA. Okay, Alexandra and Ibu Fitrilia Anjarsari, Now time is yours.
Thank you for that introduction. I'm very happy to be here. And like I was introduced, my name is Alexandra Chasen. I am currently teaching at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. I also help run the program in Women, Gender, and Sexuality as Associate Chair. My research background is in English, and I focus on internet culture and rhetoric and sexuality studies. And I am specifically interested in how internet platforms shape the way we talk about sexuality in the United States and in English, kind of generally. So thank you all for attending this presentation. I was delighted to receive Dr. Nurul Hadi's invitation to speak today. We are friends from graduate school, and I'm so happy to be here. So today I want to talk about Instagram and influencer culture in the US context. And I hope the framework of titillation will be interesting to you. And I also hope that you can apply this idea to think about internet culture in Indonesia. When I was preparing for this lecture, I researched top Instagram influencers in Indonesia to kind of compare their posts to US influencers' posts. And I believe there is much to discuss and some commonalities there. Even with cultural differences. So please feel welcome to share your thoughts on Indonesia and Instagram in the question and answer period. I'm open to comments, including questions, and I would love to hear your perspective. Since I am focused on the US, I would love to have a more global perspective on this topic. So let me share my screen so you can does it look okay? If someone could let me know if they can see the right screen. Does it look good? Okay, you can see the PowerPoint. Okay, fabulous.
Alexander, excuse me. Do you mind if the moderator introduce you again?
Oh, sure. Yes, of
I'm
course.
sorry.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, let the moderator introduce you so that the rest of us know you better, a little bit better.
Absolutely. Whenever the video was breaking up, I wasn't sure if that was the introduction. So I'm happy to have a more thorough introduction. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for Alexandra for having time to have a discussion and conversation with all of us here. And since you already introduced yourself, I think I just want to, to make opening for our discussion. Today we will have a conversation and discussion about one of our word, let's say word, quote unquote, since there are a lot of words today, all our words, since I mentioned Instagram as our word, since the experience we got there felt like the same as we have in this real world. I mean, through scrolling Instagram, we might gain knowledge and shape our perspective. And also, we can create morality, ethics through just scrolling on Instagram. I think the theory of a priori or posteriori might also change this time, right? Since we gain knowledge not only from our real world, even though for some people the boundary between which one is real, the Instagram or this word, is blurred. Like maybe some people also think that the Instagram is the real one, and I think we cannot say that this is a kind of natural impact of technological development, or maybe we cannot say that this is the result of Silicon Valley revolution, and we cannot just say that. We need to find out why Instagram is so insatiable. And today, Alexandra will crack open this mysterious case like we are having some kind of a detective. um, Mysterious case of Instagram by first providing a new perspective on titillation that have its root on pleasure theory. So, okay, Alexandra, I think The floor is yours.
Thank you. I love the way you framed that as a detective, a project for a detective. I like that framework. So now let me get started. I think so you can see my screen, I think. Does it look good? Can someone let me know if they can see the PowerPoint? Because I've shared a second monitor, so I want to make sure it's working.
Yes, I can see your
Okay,
PowerPoint.
good.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so before I get started, I wanted to share a couple of key terms, and I hope that will help you get the most out of my presentation. So the first is platform. And most simply, Instagram is a social media platform, which means it is a digital tool used to connect people who wish to communicate with one another. Probably you already know this, but I think it's helpful to really focus on the platform, that specific word. People who study the internet often do platform studies, which focus on how a user experiences a website or an app, and how those app features guide them in this experience. And in this presentation, I will talk about the design of the Instagram platform and how this affects how people talk about topics such as sexuality. Another important term is influencer. Influencers, again, as you might already know, are platform users who grow an audience to market products or ideas. They are paid to post advertisements. And while most people, seem to be aware of an influencer's work as advertisers and marketers and business people kind of generally, they are also understood as entertainers and sort of expert platform users. So they have kind of that dual role as being a celebrity, as an entertainer, but also they are selling you something whenever they're posting. As I will talk about later, this situation results in a different relationship between the average Instagram user and the influencer figure than, say, a more traditional relationship between someone watching TV and an actor in a TV commercial. It's much more intimate than that, as again, you might already know. So you'll also hear me use the word parasocial, and I will share more details later in this presentation, but parasocial refers to the relationship that develops between followers and a celebrity or influencer. In this situation, the platform user feels that they have a connection or a friendship with the celebrity or influencer. And of course, the celebrity or influencer does not return that feeling. It's one-sided. And this term was first created by sociologists in the 1950s. It's becoming more and more discussed, I think, even outside of the academy. My students in the US often come to the classroom knowing this word parasocial, and it seems like people are talking about it online as well. So finally, most of my presentation will discuss this word titillation and how I connect it to Instagram, and I will kind of give you a preview now. So it's a very funny word, I think. It's kind of an old-fashioned word in English, and it isn't used very often. And if it is used, it's often in a kind of joking manner. But it has this interesting history, and it is used in scholarship frequently. So I've decided to kind of guide our attention to this word as something useful. So the Oxford English Dictionary defines titillation as, quote, the exciting or stimulating of the mind or senses, typically in a pleasing or gratifying way, and specifically the arousal of mild sexual excitement or interest. So I'm most interested in the use of titillation for the second part, this arousal of mild sexual interest, which seems to be the most common use of the word in English today. So I'm interested, I argue that the Instagram platform rewards users, specifically influencers, who post content that inspire this mild sexual interest. And I started thinking about this word because I noticed it comes up repeatedly in scholarship about internet cultures. Scholars would write about an internet artifact, a post or a video or something that was titillating, but I couldn't find many good theories of what titillation actually is. And whenever you see that gap, you have to work to fill it, I think. And I hope this presentation will begin to offer a new explanation, and that you'll think it's an interesting word to kind of guide a conversation about Instagram today. So So I would like to kind of start out my discussion of titillation by reading two quotes. One is from The Picture of Dorian Gray. I'm not sure how popular this book is in English departments in Indonesia, but it's a really interesting book by Oscar Wilde. And then the second quote is actually from a song by a pop artist named Rihanna, and I'll show you that quote in a second. But first, from The Picture of Dorian Gray, the quote is, "Basil, I can't allow you to smoke cigars. You must have a cigarette. A cigarette is the perfect type of a perfect pleasure. It is exquisite and it leaves one unsatisfied. What more can one want?" And I just want to interject here. I do not condone smoking. It's bad for you, but it is an interesting way to think about this particular idea. So here, Oscar Wilde, who published the novel The Picture of Dorian Gray in 1890, is providing a theory of pleasure. He tells this through Lord Henry's discussion of the exquisite cigarette. Wilde is suggesting here that the cigarette is enjoyable because it causes dissatisfaction. A cigarette always leaves you wanting more, so you never grow tired of smoking. This is also a theory of titillation. Desire represents the recognition and enjoyment of dissatisfaction, and the cigarette represents the tricky object of desire, something that titillates, entices, and tempts. Lord Henry is predicting the relationship between user and platform on Instagram. So now let's turn to a new perfect type of a perfect pleasure, which Rihanna mentions in the 2016 song Sex With Me. I'm not sure how popular Rihanna is in Indonesia, but she is very popular in the US. And as the song goes, "Sex with me, so amazing, all this hard work, no vacation. Stay up off my Instagram, pure temptation." This lyric shows us the work of titillation driving Instagram. In this chorus, the listener is cast as a lustful admirer, while Rihanna is the tantalizing object of desire. Here, Instagram becomes a digital location where Rihanna might be seen as one of the top authorities on the app, giving a great deal of credence to her characterization of Instagram in this song. I read the pure temptation of Instagram Rihanna identifies in her song as describing the mode of titillation powering the platform today. Instagram was originally conceptualized as a simple photo sharing platform known as a home for spontaneous photography, instant photography, which is where the name comes from. And it was optimizing, it was also known for automatically cropping photos in a square shape so that it would be really easy to scroll through a feed. Over time, Instagram has expanded its features to include multiple images and video posts, a feature similar to Snapchat stories with disappearing posts, live streaming capability, and a newer short video feature called Reels, which mimics the platform style of its competitor, TikTok. Instagram is best known for an almost entirely visual media experience where text is often limited or hidden, as well as an infinite scroll of promoted content and advertisements. And it was early to adopt this infinite scroll where you can never reach the bottom of a feed. Instagram's growth and evolution to support commercial interests have altered platform cultures. The most followed and most liked users on Instagram are often celebrities and influencers who are online public figures who promote and market products for money or gifts. As I will detail in this presentation, influencers start trends, navigate beauty standards, and shape platform communication. This is especially true of celebrity influencers, such as the Kardashian Jenners, who are at the center of my discussion. And I'll explain who they are later. The Instagram algorithm works to entice users to stay as long as possible on the app, increasing both the number of advertising impressions and the value of platform-based marketing for their partners. While Instagram does not release specific proprietary information about their algorithms, certain indicators such as narrative evidence from influencers and patterns in content virality give some insight into how the platform works. In addition to monitoring how much time a user spends looking at a post, Instagram measures the likelihood of a user to like or save or comment on a post or navigate to the poster's profile to see more content from their account. Instagram also boosts the performance of certain accounts' posts by pushing them to the top of users' feeds, typically promoting content from accounts that already have a history of success with highly liked or viewed posts and stories. Finally, the algorithm appears to promote single posts that garner many likes in a short amount of time, which is how you can sometimes go viral on Instagram. I draw a distinction between a traditional advertisement, a piece of visual media created by an advertiser who then pays Instagram to promote it repeatedly in targeted audience feeds, much like a magazine ad or a television commercial, and then something different, which is influencer marketing practices, which Instagram more unofficially sanctions. As this presentation will demonstrate, this algorithmic environment, the setting for an economy of attention, is conducive to titillation as an influencer strategy. I read the Instagram platform as a significant facilitator of desire for people across the world, and especially in the US. With nearly 1 billion daily active users and even more monthly active users, the app is a major organizer of social life more generally. Instagram presently has one of the largest user bases and the largest cultural footprint of all social media platforms. Though, as I mentioned before this lecture started, TikTok is kind of creeping up, made complicated by the business practices of TikTok. I read the dominant mode of user engagement with the platform as that which contributes to an experience of enticement and then dissatisfaction, because the most liked and most followed posters often deploy sexual suggestiveness as a theme for content. I argue the specificity of the word titillation best describes this dynamic. Titillation, as I mentioned a minute ago, is defined as the arousal of mild sexual excitement or interest. It is often used to describe internet content, especially that which appears to have a kind of pornographic inflection, but is not pornography, right? It's something different. But it presently lacks significant theorization in platform and sexuality studies. To define and explore titillation on Instagram, I draw from Diana Zuli's proposing of the glance as a principal form of seeing on Instagram. Zuli uses this idea of the glance to help characterize the experience of looking in the attention economy, where digital media are designed to capture as much attention from a consumer as possible. In this economy, the glance describes the fleeting moments of looking and quick engagement that represent scrolling through the platform. I want to suggest titillation as a more precise way to describe browsing Instagram. The commercial dimension of Instagram further erases the already tenuous line between marketing materials and advertisements and online public journaling or social networking. This is most evident by the development of parasocial relationships between influencers and followers, often built up through performative intimacy achieved through posting titillating content. I argue that Instagram, as a facilitator and mediator, provides a setting for a consumer fantasy that at times obscures or reconstrues the sexual elements of these relationships. In this situation, a user's consumption desires underlie erotic encounters between Instagram users, usually existing as a partial or implied nudity, sexually suggestive poses that in the end sort of push up against Instagram's content requirements and moderation practices. I argue Instagram activity of Kim Kardashian and Kylie Jenner, who is Kim Kardashian's half-sister and involved with the kind of Kardashian empire in the United States, create an essential case study in Instagram influencer culture, given their status among the most followed accounts in the world and their highly visible use of titillation. I will also discuss patterns in content moderation that forms a final examination of Instagram titillation. I will share a close reading of Instagram's community guidelines, a public document on the site that vaguely outlines Meta's evolving approach to managing sexual content on its platforms. Through this reading, I identify the limits of Meta's tolerance for sexual behavior on Instagram, which skews heavily in favor of the commercial interests of celebrity influencers such as the Kardashian Jenners. These interests rely heavily on universalizing a consumer desire for pleasurable dissatisfaction, which further reinforces Instagram's mode of titillation. I want to just interject really quickly to share that I wanted to share screenshots of some of the posts that I discuss, but while they don't have this explicit nudity, right, which is kind of the point of the presentation, I'm not fully comfortable putting them up without knowing more about sort of the legal situation. I don't want to get in trouble for sharing something that is, you know, kind of adjacent to pornography or something like that. I don't think that, you know, it would be a big deal, but it's just better to be safe. So I will explain what the posts look like. And I think you should be able to go on Instagram and maybe look through some of the posts from Kim Kardashian to kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about. So studying influencers on Instagram is one way of studying the average user, just the everyday person on Instagram. I began with the most famous influencer of all time, at least in the United States, Kim Kardashian, because her participation in the attention economy of Instagram is comparable to setting a gold standard for app behavior. So whether a user realizes it or not, Kardashian's marketing and self-branding shape the look and feel of the Instagram platform. For one, Kardashian has long capitalized on her body, which she has modified and constructed in the image of pornography performers and even drag queens. Her likeness alone titillates countless active fans and more casual spectators, as evidenced by her controversial cover shoot for Paper magazine in 2014 and its corresponding viral phrase, "Break the internet, Kim Kardashian." So while I won't show a photo of the magazine cover, you can probably look it up. Just look up Paper Magazine 2014 and Kim Kardashian to kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about. Kardashian's unparalleled skills in setting beauty standards and driving tastemaking with her body firmly at the center of her business are inseparable from her Instagram presence over the past decade or so. The Instagram platform as it exists today was made for the commercial interests of Kardashian and her family, their imitators, and other influencers. One post put on Instagram in 2022 particularly represents what I mean by titillation on Instagram. In the post, Kim Kardashian is wearing a skin-toned string bikini, one that very precisely matches her skin color. And she's sort of photographed with dim lighting. And while she's wearing clothing, she really gives the appearance that she is not, right? And one can imagine quickly and mindlessly scrolling through an Instagram feed and kind of that catching your eye and pausing on that post because the image is giving the appearance of nudity at first glance. Even though she's not, it looks like she is when you're scrolling quickly. And this social media illusion could also perhaps explain the popularity of flesh-tone clothing in recent years. At least I would speculate. I don't have proof for that. Kardashian's almost nude bikini post is an example of how a successful Instagram post, in this case garnering over 4 million likes, might create friction in the otherwise seamless experience of scrolling and seeking attention through the strategy of titillation. Indeed, the friction here gets at the heart of titillation, as I use the word. By the 17th century, titillation denotes, quote, a sensation of being tickled or touched lightly, a feeling of discomfort arising from being tickled, chafed, scratched, tingling, and itching. This is from the Oxford English Dictionary again. In the platform experience of infinite scroll, where users browse feeds and search results of highly similar images, the occasional burst of extra skin catches the eye. And once that attention is caught, the hope is that the almost nudity will provoke the itch of desire. That is sort of the interest of the influencer. And now that Instagram has AI results, I think we'll see more and more developments in this where perhaps the AI search results are sort of pushing to the top the most titillating posts. I identified titillation as the dominant affect characterizing the average consumer's use of Instagram, where the platform is built to support media that catches attention and toys with the layered fantasies around sex and wealth. So even if you're not particularly interested in nudity, it doesn't really matter because the app is pushing that toward you anyway, right? So the glance sets the scene for my reading of Instagram's dynamic of titillation between platform and user. Within Diana Zulli's framework that I mentioned earlier, the gaze implies a more persistent level of attention and much firmer underlying ideology than social media consistently provide, as platform design pushes users to scroll through content with very little active engagement. So Zuli is extending Edward Casey's idea of the glance as a form of visual freedom that acts to undermine the gaze. So to describe this mode of fleeting engagement with media on digital platforms such as Instagram. Zuli writes that, quote, "This embodied form of perception does not fixate on one subject, one specific image, object, or subject, but rather represents a quick, fleeting, and indiscriminate type of seeing. Zuli represents the glance as liberatory, but I argue this formulation does not take into account the mediation of desire that also characterizes Instagram's user experience." So Zuli is saying that we are not locked into gazing at a specific thing on Instagram. We have the freedom to scroll and scroll around and look at many things. And I'm suggesting that at the end of the day, the posts that will garner the most attention are the ones that are the most ensnaring of our look and are the most titillating. So titillation then can kind of show the multiple dimensions of engagement. On Instagram, a user does not have to steal a look at the nearly nude body, though pretending to steal one is often built into the dynamic here. As I mentioned above, or mentioned before, looking is quite welcome and in fact highly sought after. The interruption of the mindless scroll by a post such as the one I mentioned from Kardashian creates the sensation of titillation, where there is inherent potential for the arousal of mild excitement or interest for millions of people. You know, over 4 million people liked the post I'm talking about here. Millions of users lingered long enough, perhaps found the post stimulating enough to pause their scroll and interact with it, right? So characterizing the sort of Freudian framework for pleasure, the psychoanalysts Jean Laplanche and Jean-Bertrand Pontelly write that, quote, "Desire has its origin and its prototype in the experience of satisfaction." So the various capturing of interest that occurs in the otherwise sort of boredom of scrolling through Instagram with the regular but not too regular appearance of nudity and sexually suggestive content exposes the stimulating quality of alternating satisfaction and dissatisfaction on Instagram. It is impossible to know what is satisfying without also knowing what is dissatisfying. While the primary aim of Instagram use might not be to look at nudity or near nudity, the experience of witnessing it there appears to produce a kind of productive enticement, at least as far as the platform is concerned. We can see this in the popularity of the aspirational visual narrative present in many Instagram posts, and the dissatisfaction with the self that pushes the user toward platform-based pleasures, scrolling and navigating the app to distract from this disappointment and dissatisfaction. Psychoanalyst Todd McGowan gestures at this in his discussion of what he calls the society of enjoyment, writing that, quote, "Enjoyment is implicit not in the content of, say, the internet, that is, in the pornography, etc., that appears there, but in the very form that we experience it, hooked onto a computer in isolation from the rest of the world," end quote. Writing in 2004, McGowan posits the social opportunities of cyberspace as a movement toward the end of dissatisfaction, but I would argue the rise of the platform internet and apps like Instagram carry with it intense dissatisfaction, which has in turn shaped the nature of desire today. Indeed, influencer culture on Instagram is perhaps the best proof of this dynamic, where people without power and means turn to people with it to serve as a reminder of what they might have if they were more wealthy and more beautiful. This is another dimension of Instagram, the aspirational quality of successful content that plays with dissatisfaction in order to drive user scrolling and increased advertising impressions. Basically, an overwhelming feeling that you aren't good enough, but if you buy a few more things, you might be better, right? That you aspire to be better. In describing the currency of business in the social media economy, Thomas H. Davenport and John C. Beck write, quote, "Those who don't have it want it. Even those who have it want it more." And the it here, of course, is attention, right? At least as far as the platform is concerned. And contained within this formulation is the dissatisfaction that is built into the attention economy that, as I've indicated, sort of spawned and has sustained this dominant mode of titillation. The never enough attitude of people who have found some success through likes, follows, brand deals on the platform shows how earned attention amounts to currency or wealth. For the scrolling consumer, the never enough quality of Instagram seems to drive engagement, which we can see in the addiction rhetoric surrounding the platform in the United States. There's a lot of discourse today about Instagram being a kind of being addictive, or TikTok being addictive, with a particular concern for young people. So like Oscar Wilde's cigarette, the perfect type of a perfect pleasure, the platform always provides more fodder for fantasies of sex, wealth, beauty, and health, and seemingly asks for very little in return. You can sort of use the app for free, but it takes so much, I think, from us. For many users, the endlessness of the infinite scroll through a feed of images and videos is perhaps the easiest and most beautiful media with which to engage today. A search for the tag #influencer yields some posts with 20 likes and 0 comments, and some with millions of both. Yet the sort of composite image, whenever you search in Instagram, shows this repetition of women kind of posing in similar ways and wearing similar clothing or lack thereof. It shows the sort of mimicry of top influencers such as Kardashian, where the average person might be sort of tempted to imitate what Kim Kardashian is doing. They aspire to be like Kim Kardashian, even unconsciously. A really prominent media scholar, Alice E. Marwick, argues that images representing the aspirational perform at high levels on Instagram. Influencers, people whose fame exists due to their account activity and curated personal brands, are successful and earn likes and followers because they exhibit appearances, lifestyles, and social networks that others want but typically cannot have. Marwick writes, quote, "These individuals have succeeded in gaining immense audiences on Instagram, a free, easy-to-use technology available to virtually everyone with a smartphone and a data plan. Thus, their fame seems attainable to the average onlooker." And in fact, in the United States, surveys of children asked what they want to be when they grow up overwhelmingly say influencer, and that's a newer trend in the US. So Instagram posts signaling wealth also spawn fantasies, right? For those who cannot afford or cannot have access to, desirable material objects and geographic spaces, which is to say the vast majority of users, right? Most people, are not wealthy and performing on Instagram. Returning to the Kardashians, titillation as the dominant affect of Instagram is best captured in the media produced by its most popular accounts. So according to a recent survey of influencers, career influencers, that is their only job, Instagram remains the present leader as the primary social media platform used for marketing. And the platform plays host to macro, so really famous, and micro, so kind of famous celebrities who are compensated either with monetary payment or given gifts in exchange for favorable product reviews and promotions. As I described earlier, many average users without these partnerships or high follower accounts often mimic these successful influencer posts. And as Zuli writes, being looked at on Instagram is not only expected, but welcomed. Users hope that their images will garner attention and that viewers will be interested in the content presented. So even if you're a nobody, you're not an influencer, you don't have any brand deals, you still hope that you get likes and attention, right? Whenever you post, you hope that people will be interested in what you're posting on Instagram. And so in that way, your Instagram activity is made in the image of influencers. So career influencers must strike a balance between a dramatic stunt, or product reviews that can be maybe more boring with their content. And ultimately, their job is to make their lifestyle seem desirable and achievable, or aspirational is sort of the word I used earlier. A key method to achieve this dynamic is to treat followers as if they were your friends and peers, even if you don't know them, right? In terms of the consumer experience, I identify a pleasurable dissatisfaction that comes with sort of being teased what you cannot have, or more accurately, what you think you might eventually have, but do not currently possess. I think maybe this is a very American idea, I'm not sure, but I think that it's sort of a big part of American culture to always think that you will become wealthy, right? Even if you are very unlikely to ever become wealthy, right? And so, this experience is filtered through this affective mode of titillation, which then scaffolds the erotic, or more specifically, a kind of erotic tension or friction on Instagram. Let's see. Furthermore, there is a particular focalization of the partially nude female body as the primary vehicle for titillation on Instagram, which I argue helps to cultivate these sort of imagined parasocial relationships. This is now a key element of influencer culture. While not a new phenomenon, it has taken firm root in the present ecosystem of social media, advertising, and its infinite possibilities for follower and fan engagement. So originally conceived by sociologists Donald Horton and R. Richard Wohl in 1956, the parasocial interaction is defined as a simulation of conversational give and take, where there is an imagined intimacy between the consumer of mass media and its object, for example, a celebrity. And it now constitutes this very important aspect of influencer and celebrity culture on Instagram. The Kardashian Jenners, who are already cultivating an emerging brand name through television and other social media platforms, are now the most recognizable celebrity influencers in the United States, and therefore provide a useful case study in parasocial fan behaviors and Instagram titillation. Nearly 2 generations of Americans who grew up with sort of built-in feelings of intimacy with their family's reality TV show now also follow the family on social media. So let me take a sip of water really quick. So as another example of what Kardashian is doing on Instagram, she posted an Instagram reel a couple years ago in December 2022, and Kim Kardashian is filming herself taking a bite of a hamburger, and then she sort of briefly flashes the camera down to her body while shaking her head. And the caption reads, "Can't believe some of my besties have never tried In-N-Out." And In-N-Out is a popular fast food restaurant in the United States, particularly in California. And I would suggest this post is titillating in several ways. Perhaps the most obvious source is a sort of tilting of the camera down from her face to kind of show off her outfit, but incidentally sort of showcasing her body in like very revealing clothing. And the proportions the video produced by this camera angle, which is a common manipulation of perspective for Kardashian and her imitators, puts her chest in focus. And quickly scrolling through reels can kind of create the illusion of a more complete nudity or nude video. But there's kind of more to the video than just the tricky angles. Kardashian is also wearing a thick choker necklace with a large Christian cross as a pendant. And there are comments on the post of people asking her to take it off, that some people were sort of calling her a demon and other sentiments. So people are noticing the cross symbol and are, sort of bothered by it. And all of these points of potential titillation set the stage for more prolonged engagement, both with the post through liking, sharing, or commenting, and with Kardashian's account more generally. Instagram enables such attention-grabbing strategies, which Kardashian implements, particularly the flashing of skin amidst the infinite scroll. And this opens the door for a deeper performance of intimacy, actually. So, for example, the specificity of In-N-Out, this fast food restaurant, as the setting for the reel, emphasizes the drama of her wealth in the otherwise sort of mundane setting, right? So, this simultaneously kind of ironically performs relatability and then also on some level humility, right? Given that someone of Kardashian's wealth and status, she doesn't need to go to In-N-Out, right? She has many other kind of restaurants at her disposal. So she's sort of performatively going to a fast food restaurant. And, this surface level is kind of giving an air of irony, but I argue that Instagram's sort of platform context for the video illuminates Kardashian's larger project to retain fans and imitators. So the caption does most of the work here, while it mentions, quote, some of my besties, and those besties do not actually appear in the video. So the friends are alluded to, but do not actually appear in the video. And this allows someone looking at this reel, the Instagram viewer, to project themselves into this In-N-Out excursion, kind of deepening the fantasy of a friendship or a connection with Kardashian on some level. And the artist Andy Warhol writes about a similar dynamic where he describes what it means to drink Coca-Cola. He writes, you can be watching TV and see Coca-Cola, and you know that the president drinks Coke. Liz Taylor, who's a famous actress in the mid-century, drinks Coke. And just think, you can drink Coke too. A Coke is a Coke, and no amount of money can get you a better Coke than the one the bum on the corner is drinking. All the Cokes are the same, and all the Cokes are good. Liz Taylor knows it, the president knows it, and the bum knows it, and you know it, right? So he's sort of meditating on American culture and our feeling of camaraderie with each other over drinking a Coca-Cola. And the In-N-Out visit kind of plays with the viewer's associations with fast food and cultivates this aesthetic of relatability much in the same way Warhol describes. Kim Kardashian goes to In-N-Out, and just think, you can go to In-N-Out too. And maybe this is a kind of uniquely American fantasy. Maybe we can talk about it in the Q&A. But I think probably this is something that is legible across the world, feeling like you can connect with a celebrity in this way. Thus, the implicit sharing of wealth and status creates the circumstances for such a titillating celebrity influencer post, and the erotics of celebrity influencing play with material space as much as they do with suggestive and pornographic images focused on the body. I guess I should say semi-pornographic. I don't feel that what they're posting is pornography, it's something else. So the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City has an annual Costume Institute benefit, and it's popularly known as the Met Gala. And it's a kind of a big media event. Celebrities attend and wear costumes, and it's kind of a big internet moment every year. And for Kylie Jenner, this provides a kind of backdrop for maintaining the enticingly aspirational with a performance of intimacy. So the Met Gala famously prohibits personal photography and social media posts while inside the event space. And Kylie Jenner, who I mentioned is a younger member of the Kardashian-Jenner family, popularized a kind of loophole for this situation. Following an Instagram post from Jenner in 2017, Met Gala attendees began sharing bathroom selfies taken in groups at the event. While similar photos circulate on other platforms, Jenner's post showcases the power of performative humility and authenticity and the related aesthetics of amateurism for celebrity influencers on Instagram. Jenner's 2017 post and the many others that have followed in the years since epitomize the amateur aesthetic and performative authenticity that has risen to counter recent narratives of unobtainable influencer perfection. For one, because it is a mirror selfie, there is no doubt that Jenner herself took the photo. This matters because Jenner's followers do not navigate life in front of a camera and a team of photographers and videographers as Jenner herself generally does. The selfie is disruptive in this context, perhaps conveying to the audience a similar bathroom photo taken at their own high school or college dance. The kind of mirror selfie is a popular genre of photo and has been since the early days of the internet. However, the work of the selfie still remains aspirational because the average follower will never come close to the setting of the photo, which is the Met Gala. Another interesting element to the Met Gala post is that Jenner did not tag those sharing the mirror with her, suggesting that only people on the inside will know who they are. Leaving the photograph subjects untagged also generates media conversation. After this post, countless celebrity news outlets devoted entire articles to identifying the people in the photo. It also indicates a certain detachment where Jenner is the leader of the friend group and her associates must humble themselves by sharing the post on their story or reposting rather than get credit for their appearance on the front end. But the large group of untagged celebrities also allows the viewer to imagine themselves in this grouping, further cultivating the post narrative of the illicit pranks of an elite and secret society of celebrity bathroom occupants at the Met Gala. This shows how another function of Instagram's platform, this shows in its deliberate misuse, contributes to titillation as an effective experience. The comments of on the Met Gala post demonstrate the sexual undertones of both Jenner's celebrity persona in the specific titillating context of the bathroom itself. Many comments allude to Jenner's pregnancy with her first child and her identity as a mother. The 2017 Met Gala was held on May 1st, 2017, and her child was born February 1st, 2018, leading to some commenters to speculate on the Met Gala as the date of conception. They're sort of guessing that perhaps she conceived her child on this day. People are commenting conception night and other interesting things. And then other comments are preoccupied with the gender of the people in the photo, kind of connecting the photo to bathroom politics. People are commenting, wait, something's wrong with this pic. How are you in the same bathroom? Or is this a gender neutral bathroom? Or asking girls or guys? And these comments signal the forbidden intimacy of the Met Gala bathroom photo and its gender transgression. Men and women are not supposed to be in a public restroom together, and that is interesting to people viewing this. While Jenner is with the bathroom pic, Jenner is letting the Instagram viewer into the erotic setting of the bathroom where a mixed gender group of wealthy and beautiful people are breaking the rules, right? That's at least the framing on Instagram. And while Jenner is arguably a professional photographer in her own right, there is this amateur element built into the celebrity selfie when the celebrity holds status in the way that Jenner does. So the effectiveness of Kardashians and Jenner's strategies relies on this mode of titillation, not just as a means to recruit fans, followers, imitators, and potential business partners, but also as a means of retaining those people through relationship building in the parasocial dimensions of their Instagram activity. Unfamous Instagram users, just the average people, without their own sphere of influence, not only desire the lifestyle promoted on popular accounts such as Kardashians and Jenners, but also desire recognition from their influencer idols through their comments. Kardashian and Jenner also show the capability of a social media platform such as Instagram to perfectly blur the lines between friend, marketer, and object of desire. I argue the pleasure of using Instagram stems far more from the liking and pursuing likes and the dissatisfaction and temptation built into wanting to inhabit the body of the influencer, blurring the boundary between desire and identification, as opposed to the pleasures of seeing and being seen. Influencers tuned into this dynamic seek to make their body as worthy of likes on the platform as possible. The lack of beauty and or wealth for unfamous Instagram users is viewed as a temporary state of being, a situation that can be changed at some point in the future. Whereas the gaze is predicated on what Zuli calls power imbalance within influencer culture, the power imbalance is purposefully disavowed and obscured by the performance of intimacy and even the rhetoric of product review and recommendation culture. If you buy this thing I've been paid to promote, you can be just like me, is kind of the idea there. As Kardashian and Jenner demonstrate, cultivating the intimacy of parasociality through titillation helps to harness the attention necessary to build up their brands and push their own business interests on Instagram. Thus far, I have discussed the platform infrastructure and design that contribute to this dominant affect of titillation and the resulting performative intimacy and parasociality of celebrity and micro-influencer culture on Instagram. To kind of wrap up my discussion, I will now consider the erotics of how Meta does business, the explicit uplifting of the titillating Instagram experience through their community guidelines, and the celebrities who push up against content moderation in an implicit scenario of discipline and financial domination. The community guidelines section of the Instagram Help Center constitutes a small portion of the platform's stated terms and policies, but it speaks volumes about the mediation of sexual behavior by American tech companies. I turn to the guidelines to read for Meta's corporate attitudes towards sexual content, but it is important to note that the Help Center web pages are not promoted or even made easily accessible on the platform. Unless a user was looking for them or researching them, as I have done, they would be unlikely to stumble across the information contained on the Instagram browser website. Still, even in this ultra corporate and kind of bland document that few Instagram users will ever see, there is a shadow of titillation. With an almost kind of cutesy tone, the article simplifies Instagram's policies regarding what is permissible on the app to the point of concealment, reading, quote, "Thank you for helping us create one of the best communities in the world." And you're sort of left wondering, what does that really mean? And while the community guidelines are signaled in the terms and policies menu to be the most comprehensive catalog of platform rules, with the link topping the full list of articles, the page provides only the most basic overview. So once on the community guideline page, they're sort of categorized into two headlines, the short and the long. So the short section is just a 4-sentence overview of what Meta characterizes to be the most important elements of the guidelines. They write, quote, "We want Instagram to continue to be an authentic and safe space for inspiration and expression. Help us foster this community. Post only your own photos and videos and always follow the law. Respect everyone on Instagram. Don't spam people or post nudity." It is easy to see why nudity features so prominently as a guideline kind of offense on Instagram. Would the guideline exist if it had not already been broken repeatedly, perhaps by many people, is the question I ask. I think the answer is it would not exist, except that people consistently break this kind of rule. And the phrasing of community guidelines is interesting because they're not saying community rules or standards that would feel very strict. They're kind of suggesting a more lenient or kind of funny acknowledgement that violations will probably happen. And so in the short of the community guidelines just that I've described, nudity is construed as something that might convey disrespect, but kind of nothing more serious than this. If you click the hyperlinked word nudity further down the page, however, the link sends the reader to a much more comprehensive list of Meta's rules regarding adult nudity and sexual activity across all their platforms. By contrast, Facebook specifically has community standards that also link to the adult nudity and sexual activity page, where they place it under an all capitals, very serious heading of objectionable content that they put alongside hate speech, violent and graphic content, and sexual solicitation. And so the link to this page is really buried in the guidelines and arguably very difficult to find, suggesting that most people will not find it unless they were searching for it, perhaps if they had their account suspended for breaking one of the rules. And this is important because the Meta's Transparency Center is what they call it, which means they're trying to be open about their policies. They detail nudity and related possible infractions, employing the language of legal contracts, suggesting that it exists primarily to scold offenders and also cover legal bases in the case of free speech or related lawsuits in the United States. I am guessing that in Indonesia, these content standards look different because the laws are different. So Instagram is, at least in the sort of US construction of their community guidelines, is positioning itself as this very democratic judge assessing accused posters of sexually explicit content on a very fair case-by-case basis. Like, it's not blanket making decisions. But its enforcement of the community guidelines feels much more, excessive. There's a lot of post deletion, account banning, rumors of shadow banning, which is basically hiding posts that Meta doesn't want people to see. We really only have narrative evidence for that. Meta doesn't admit that they're doing it. But for certain political events, they'll hide certain material. They've gotten in trouble, at least in the United States, for this in the past. And so it does feel like their decisions to sort of decide what's bad and what's good in terms of nudity or sexual content is a little more arbitrary. And without this framework of titillation, it seems very arbitrary, right? But community guidelines and Meta's track record for suspending accounts without explanation gives some sense of corporate and an American or Silicon Valley set of attitudes about appropriateness and what belongs on a certain type of platform. In one sense, the sexually inappropriate might be understood as whatever runs the risk of driving millions of users away, so trouble for the business. But with over 1 billion daily active users parceled out into pockets of influence created by Instagram's algorithm, perhaps the greater concern is more likely that high-profile business partners and investors find certain sexual content unsavory. So they're more interested in pleasing investors, high-profile partners, and these really big celebrity influencers. So where then is the line if they won't say where it is? What is nudity to them and what isn't, for example? As one Instagram user said in an interview for an article on a very popular account's banning from Instagram, quote, "If I go to a popular music artist page, why do I see implied nudity there with emojis over her breasts?" End quote. Allegedly, Meta's Transparency Center has a caveat for nudity in art. They say, quote, "We allow photographs of paintings, sculptures, and other art that depicts nude figures." But that doesn't seem to include a post from someone like Kim Kardashian or another celebrity. And some have suggested there is a sexist double standard for content moderation, specifically that women are more likely to violate nude posts, violate Meta's content policy for nudity, for example. And I think that's clearly true. That does seem to happen. But I do question the sort of totalizing idea of a double standard for all women posting nudity or near nudity, because it stands to reason that Instagram would be just as likely to leave up Kim Kardashian's suggestive posts as a male celebrity's. And this is not to imply there is not a sexist logic to Instagram culture manipulation on the part of Meta, but in general, celebrity sexual content is not objectionable, as Meta puts it in all caps, in the community standards I described earlier. Furthermore, Meta has in the past caved to celebrity influencer demands. For example, in 2022, the rise of TikTok led to an Instagram platform redesign that pushed their Reels product, the short videos on Instagram product, to contend with their new competitor, TikTok. And the algorithmic shift to promote Reels over posts from followed accounts in users' feeds led to this very substantial backlash with people like Kim Kardashian and Kylie Jenner both posting, "Make Instagram again," to express a gripe with the changes. Following these posts from Kardashian and Jenner, Instagram did roll back their changes and the update they had done. And this example of celebrity disciplining shows the level of control top users have over Instagram, even in terms of platform design, which is very interesting. On that level, should Kim Kardashian be the CEO of Meta? And of course, the dynamic works both ways. Rihanna kind of famously cost the app Snapchat millions of dollars after posting a statement on Instagram, in fact, criticizing an ad that made a joke about her, earning Instagram newly devoted followers after a Snapchat boycott ensued. So kind of there is this different, celebrities can convince people to leave platforms and move to others. So now it's sort of like, how do we sort of resist this normalizing structure of titillation on Instagram? And it proves really difficult, if perhaps impossible. A really brilliant scholar, Kate McKinney, describes instances of resistance to Instagram's community standards, where accounts sharing queer history posts that sometimes contain sexually implicit images. So not pornography, not nudity, but something more implicit. And they're removed anyway. They're posted anyway, even though they know they will eventually sort of face post removal and account bans. And so they're sort of persistently posting these things to try to get the word out about these forgotten histories, even though they know Instagram is going to try to take it down. And McKinney reads the action of posting in this situation of censorship as a political act, where the content sharers hope to reach at least a handful of people, disrupting the otherwise kind of sanitized homepage with a single beauty standard or kind of understanding of what sexual desire is supposed to look like. And while this situation of resistance illustrates a kind of effective form of protest, it still ultimately falls into the pattern of titillation on the platform that I've described in this presentation. In other words, Instagram ultimately benefits from such content existing on its platform for even a moment in time. Even if it ultimately takes it down, it sort of benefits kind of from the drama of titillation in the feed. So to summarize, Instagram's algorithm promotes titillating content when it is posted by celebrities and influencers, but not when lesser known people do it. And I think the exception is when an influencer is truly an influencer with many followers and is posting in the image of the sort of gold standard influencers like Kardashian and Jenner. And nearly full nudity from celebrities such as Kardashian Jenners is tolerated due to their millions of followers and prioritization in feeds, which benefits Instagram in driving traffic on the platform and adding value to the brand. And on some level, many people go to Instagram to see people like Kardashian kind of scantily clad. Instagram's outward tolerance of celebrity titillation, even through violations of their own content guidelines, is in fact an endorsement. It is also essential to the platform's success. Where would they be without the Kardashians and Jenners? And so I'll kind of conclude with this final thought about Instagram. So Susanna Powson and Jenny Sunden write about celebrity sex scandals, so people who have kind of news come out about them regarding their sex lives, or maybe leaked nude photos, celebrities who have these problems. But I feel they also offer some insight about the work of celebrity influencers and titillation on Instagram. So they write, quote, sex scandals close audiences in their embrace, implicating them in guilty pleasures tinted with shame. The tenacious permanence of data on online platforms means that evidence of scandal remains perpetually visible, to be referenced and re-evoked whenever similar incidents occur. Both shame and titillation linger within such scandalous archives. Frozen in time, they refuse to go away, end quote. In this formulation, the effectual experience of shame and titillation is felt by the audiences closed in the embrace of sex scandal. I argue that Instagram, by allowing near or even actual nudity, reproduces this titillating dynamic for the average user. Instagram is a digital social media platform that bans the sexually explicit but allows the sexually suggestive. But it gets to draw the line however it likes between which is which. Thus, Instagram remains a scandalous archive of titillation. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and I look forward to chatting with you in the questions and answers period.
Hey, thank you so much, Alexandra. And I can say that from this discussion, or let's say through our detective activity, we can say that Instagram algorithm does not represent a white space. I mean, it was born with the DNA containing our desires and interests, although it is sometimes against their term and conditions. Like they make an exceptional condition for celebrities. Therefore, it will promote certain posts to be viral. What is interesting is that if the audience here also tries to gain curiosity to find out how the Instagram algorithm works in Indonesia, maybe we can find different patterns than what Alexandra already mentioned, since I'm sure that every regions might have different desires and interests, so we can add color to this discussion. Maybe we can start to have a look at our most followed Instagram influencer in Indonesia, and it is Raffi Ahmad and Nagita Slavina with their family daily activities and flexing about uh, bags and maybe outfits some sort. Or maybe the audience here has questions about the theory of titillations Alexandra had explained. Please feel free to drop your question in the comment section or use the feature of raise your hand. Okay.
I'm definitely interested in hearing about the differences. I wanted to be careful in my presentation to emphasize that I am seeing, this very United States kind of flavored context, and I'm sure it's so different. I mean, I honestly hadn't even reflected in my own kind of research how much I was focusing on a very US context, even sort of the ways in which I am reading the posts and what the posts mean. I'm sure someone in another part of the world looking at the same post that I am would maybe take away something entirely different, right? And I find that so interesting. So I certainly welcome other thoughts. So it looks like there might be a question in the
Yeah, in
chat.
the comment section, we have a question from Bahati, I guess. Yeah. What is the limitation of a sexually suggestive uh, image of female body considered as titillation on Instagram? Is there any positive impact of titillation beside a business purpose or such an academic purpose? What about other platforms such as Facebook and WhatsApp related to titillation?
That's so interesting. Basically, what are is there like a good side to all of this? Because I think I try to approach it as like kind of, I think value neutral, which is like, I guess maybe my instinct is that it feels maybe a little bad that this is happening, but I don't really know for sure how different it is from other kind of sexual experiences or kinds of desire in other settings. Like, I don't know if I'm ready to say that it's the worst on Instagram or on the internet more generally. But I don't know. I guess I think it's a good question because I'm not really sure what other purposes. I mean, I think that, I've seen some influencers. I'm thinking in particular of a popular um, genre of influencer in the United States right now, more on TikTok, but also on Reels and on Instagram, is like the lawyer influencer. So often young women who are kind of conventionally attractive and do post kind of these in this titillating mode of, in traveling and wearing bathing suits, but then they're also speaking very eloquently about American legal culture and talking about the law and have very smart and interesting opinions about, the politics of the legal system in the United States or the criminal justice system in the United States. And so on some level, I'm like, they're getting the attention by posting in this titillating mode, but they're also providing this kind of educational public service, which I think is what the person's question is kind of getting at. So I think there's maybe an opportunity there to continue that. But I guess I'm not ready to give it my like thumbs up kind of endorsement because I'm just not sure, how much it might negatively impact, and kind of heighten gender, inequality, at least in the US, it might continue being an issue. But that's a great question. I think there are probably uses that I can't think of, not being an influencer myself. So
Okay, thank you, Alexandra, for the response. Maybe Pak Hadi want to have another response? Okay, so we move into the second comments here from Amsterdam Dennis Woro. I do wonder why, even without counting the contradictory treatments of titillation, Instagram seems to really encourage sexually suggestive contents while simultaneously banning sexually explicit contents. So much so the term thirst trap has entered the public consciousness. Thirst trap.
yes, no, I am remiss in not talking about thirst traps, but you're so right. This is really, really a big part of it. I mean, the sort of the thirst trap is like, what anyone could get away with, which is just posting, an attractive photo of yourself, perhaps with some kind of suggestiveness or like, maybe partial, nudity or at least revealing clothing, right? But yeah, no, it does seem to be so much a part of the way we talk about the internet that thirst trap is always there. That's like a normal thing. Like moms could post a thirst trap, and I don't think it would be considered that crazy to us, right? It's totally changed the way we think about like what we're doing online and what's acceptable. We talk about I'm not sure how many in the audience would know this, but the Overton window of sort of what is acceptable. You can look that up, the Overton window, but how that shifts. And actually, Gail Rubin, who's really important for sort of starting queer theory, has a famous essay, Thinking Sex. I'm not sure if any of you have read it, but Rubin talks about the charmed circle, right, of sort of sexual behaviors and how that's constantly changing. So there's an inner circle of stuff that's okay and an outer circle of stuff that's not okay. And that changes throughout history and it's different in different cultures. But you can always sort of like create that visual of things that are okay in the circle and things that are not okay outside of the circle. And it is highly contingent upon history, historical constructions and our social constructions. That's a really interesting thought. Thank you. Amsterdam.
Okay, thank you. Maybe we can move into another question here from Oktiva Chandra or Paheri. The phenomenon of titillation as a cultural aspect through platforms like Instagram also is occurring in other countries. How do cultural values in those societies contribute to any differences in how this phenomenon is expressed and perceived?
I think that's a great question, and a question that I am also asking, right? Because I feel I have this good grasp of what's going on in the US. And I do think because these are these are American products to at their origin, right? And while people have taken it and run with it and used these products in different ways, that origin story, for Trilia, you called it the DNA of these products. What is in the software? It does contain American ideologies, right? Like that's part of what's in it. So while I can't speak specifically about how cultural values and sort of, society in other countries, that is there's sort of infinite answers to that, right? As many communities in the world, as there are, it would be impossible to generalize. But what I will say is that, I hope that in listening to my lecture, you will at least find it interesting in the sense that Meta is still, while a very global company, and WhatsApp is used by far much more by people in other countries outside of the US context, that it does have this origin story that might be interesting for people in other places to consider. As much as I'm sure you're probably tired of hearing about US culture. I'm sure that's probably annoying, but I do think it matters in the context of Meta's platforms, Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram. I think that the titillation is sort of built into what's promoted, as I've kind of detailed in the presentation. I think that's part of it. I think that what's titillating has infinite kind of variety, right? What's visually interesting to people in other cultural contexts will matter significantly, right? So the answer that question is impossible for one person to answer, but is a very interesting starting point for everyone to kind of consider this. So thank you for that, Octiva.
Okay, maybe Pak Heri wants to follow with another question or comment.
No, I think it's very clearly answered by Alexander. Thank you very much, Alexander.
Okay, thank you. And we can move into another question here from Pak Arya Jati. How do you see the effects of exposure to titillating content on younger Instagram users?
Yeah, I think that will depend again, from culture to culture, social context to social context. It seems that, in the United States, I'm aware of a number of psychological studies, sociological studies, even studies done by Meta themselves on their own products. There have been Senate hearings. There is intense concern about its effects on young people, teenagers specifically, and teenage girls even more specifically. And so, if I'm at any point going to say it seems like Instagram is bad or toxic, it would probably be with that as my justification. It does seem like what often gets discussed with the internet's impact on younger users is attention span and what people can pay attention to and what grabs attention. And I'm suggesting that on Instagram, what is grabbing attention is young, conventionally meeting those beauty standards in various cultures, posing in not very much clothing or no clothing at all, right? And if that's sort of what is being noticed and what younger users are being sort of inundated with, that seems like cause for concern, to say the least. And we do have some evidence to support that. And so I think we do need to really consider, what social media use should look like for children and young people. And in fact, Instagram has recently introduced a kind of like Instagram for teens. At least I don't know if they've launched that globally, but they have in the United States. I have not, it's very new. I have not yet had a chance to explore that. And frankly, I'm not sure that I would feel comfortable making an account when it's supposed to be a space for young people. But it does seem that they even as much as it's built into their business model, even they are concerned with how much people are noticing they're doing bad things, if that makes sense. So I think we should be concerned, and I think that we need to continue brainstorming how to support children and young people navigating internet, products and cultures and everything that the internet has to offer. And I know that, I think that actually, I was reading about your government recently said that Instagram could not have like a store, basically. Am I understanding that correctly? That there can't be this sort of commerce dimension to the platform. Is that right? I think that's what I read. So I think that's probably a good measure too. I think that's a big problem with TikTok, for example, is the sort of compulsive shopping, or desire to sort of spend money on influencer promoted products in that space also seems like a problem, but we have less evidence to sort of figure out what's wrong with that, even though it feels maybe not great. Great question.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we can move into another question here from Buratno, I guess. Can we say that this phenomenon is part of the nature of postmodern society when the real thing is covered by the untrue phenomenon?
I think if I understand your question, I think that we need to, bring this conversation to kind of the material level. How is this tangibly affecting people's lives? And, while it's interesting, and I think we've done an interesting, productive, intellectual thing by doing, I present this lecture, we're talking about it now, and doing this kind of cultural exchange and broadening the conversation. We also need to think about in our own lives, how is this materially affecting, how I approach the internet and, in my brain. There's a lot of evidence to suggest that internet platforms are changing the way our brains work. How is this affecting the people around me, including children and young people who are maybe more susceptible to the messaging? Keeping it very material, I think, is going to be key here, especially if we want that to translate to policy and sort of the political scene and things like that. I think that, if we get wrapped up in sort of postmodern theory and what's real and not real, we are, while that might be kind of a fun thought experiment, we are maybe also spending too much energy thinking about it instead of doing things about it, right? And that's something that I personally have to work on, and probably, as students and intellectuals, we probably all do, right? Figuring out how to create actions out of these insights that we're sort of exploring together. Fun question. Challenging question.
Okay, maybe you would not want to add comments or another question?
So there is one question that I can
So I guess
answer.
we
Is it
answer a question from Priantoro. Is it driven by the Instagram algorithm automatically to increase engagement, or by users' individual or collective behavior? Okay, this is
right? Both. The answer is both. I think that, the algorithm, and really it's actually many algorithms kind of coming together, and now with a sort of like chatbot and AI component really is like the new direction my own research is taking, and I think we're all sort of interested in artificial intelligence. But it is driven by both, right? So on some level we all have to sort of look inward and see what sort of do the study of sexualities and gender, right? To see how these have been historically and socially constructed to end up where we are today. Right. And and to, to sort of see where, when Fitrilia brought up the DNA, I started thinking, the DNA of, the very basic platform design of sharing images always was going to sort of reward the most visually appealing and pleasing things, right? Sexual or otherwise, right? And of course, I'm a scholar of sexuality, so I think there's probably, everything posted on Instagram is at least in conversation with sexual content, even if it's understood as in opposition. But yeah, it's really both. It's the algorithm doing work, which is made by humans, right? Or, AI doing work on the app, which is drawing from, vast amounts of data and language and information produced by humans. And then it's the individual's behavior for what they see in their feed, and then also collective behavior of who they follow in their communities, and people geographically near to them and things like that. Yeah, really, really interesting way to talk about Instagram.
Okay, thank you. Uh, any other questions or comments? Okay, so thank you so much, Alexandra. And actually, I have a lot of things in my mind right now because I I see a phenomenon in Indonesia with the different algorithms, the famous influencers here, with the content of family, flexing.
Maybe we can have a lot more conversations. Thank you for sharing your I have email. A question, if I may. Yeah, so it reminds me this titillating with the case study with Kardashian in the United States. It actually reminds me of the case in around 2020s in Indonesia, where when we have Tante Ernie. So she's a celebrity on Instagram, and she often posted sexually suggestive pictures, and she became very famous, and even she was dubbed as the unifier of the nation because men, well, she was so famous back then. So it's like Tante Ernie, Aunt Ernie, because she was already in her 40s back then. But yeah, she was beautiful, and she posted so many pictures, sexually suggestive pictures. So back then, when men would disagree with different political agendas or different political affiliation, but somehow, so she is the unifier of the nation. Could you comment on that? Is it a part of titillation as well? Or maybe
Yeah,
another function of titillation, or probably just a joke?
it's a great joke. It's hilarious. And there's this actually there's an American actor, Sydney Sweeney, who has become really popular lately in a bunch of different films. And she is known, at least partially for her body. And that's part of her acting is sort of her how she's a very like physical actor. And she is definitely, becoming what we would call a sex symbol, right? Online, offline, right? And it's really funny that you're bringing up this celebrity who is the unifier of the nation, because people have said similar things about Sydney Sweeney during this election cycle, with the race between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, that everyone can agree on Sydney Sweeney having a perfect body, basically. And so it seems like maybe this is a universal joke.
Yeah.
I don't know. Can we take it seriously as an actual political tool? Maybe. I really think there's a chance we could. I mean, I think like it's like a joke you see through history, right? Like no matter your political affiliations, like Marilyn Monroe is hot or whatever, like this is like something that's been going on for a while. I think, yeah, I think there's a place for this in political rhetoric, it seems like to me. So I'm glad you brought that up. That's hilarious. I'm gonna have to look into that. And what she posted was that obviously Instagram probably wouldn't have cared, as I've kind of argued, if she's that famous, but was she in trouble for sort of disseminating, or was it not close enough to pornography to be a problem?
It's not, no, we somehow, she's okay. I mean, it was not considered as pornography.
Yeah, very interesting. The lines we draw. In the American legal context, pornography is defined as you know it when you see it, kind of famously. So there's not a clear definition of what that is. And so it's been a consistent problem of, in our legal context of free speech and, what constitutes that and who should be able to access it or see it. And certainly whoever is in office kind of contributes to that kind of censorship or kind of like radical freedom or whatever. So it's an interesting political question too. So it'll be more interesting in the United States. I have not looked at any election results while performing this lecture, but we'll see how it goes.
Okay, thank you for the comments. We finally uh, be able to draw a line that connected the Instagram algorithm from US and in Indonesia.
Yes, I love that. I love that.
Okay. Thank you, Alexandra, for today's discussion. Thank you so much. And I will return it to our Master of Ceremony, Pak Hadi.
Thanks to all of you. I had a great time answering these questions and chatting with you all. And please feel free to email me any other questions or just ideas you had. I would love to hear them. Please feel comfortable sending me an email if you would like.
Thank you, Alexandra.
Okay, thank you very much for great thought-provoking presentation, Alexandra. It's very detailed, well-structured presentation, I think. Thank you very much, moderator, Ibu Fitrilia Anjarsari. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this visiting lecture agenda. But before this visiting lecture is closed, there will be a closing remark by the head of the English Department, Faculty of Humanities, Diponegoro University, Mr. Heri Chandra. Okay, Pak Heri, as the head of the English Department, time is yours. Muted.
Oh, sorry. Yes, ladies and gentlemen and dear students, I would like to take this opportunity to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our speaker, Dr. Alexandra Chaisen. I really hope that I'm not mistaken in pronouncing your last name. Who has shared her insight and knowledge, and to every participant who has dedicated this morning to join us in this enlightening experience. Your involvement has been invaluable. As we conclude today's thought-provoking lecture by Dr. Alexandra Chaisen, entitled Instagram and Titillation, we have been offered a nuanced perspective on how digital platforms, particularly Instagrams, engage with our sense and emotion both consciously and unconsciously. Dr. Tyson's exploration of this intersection between social media, visual culture, and human desire challenge us to think critically about the ways in which this platform shape not only our perception of ourselves and others, but also the broader societal norms of attention, attraction, and engagement. Please join me in thanking to Dr. Tyson for her engaging and thought-provoking lecture. And we look forward to future discussion that continue to push the boundaries of understanding of digital culture. Finally, let us not forget to express our sincere appreciation to the organizing committee by Dr. Uh, Eta Farmacelia at the PSG and the teams. Your hard work and dedication have been instrumental in making this visiting lecture a success. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody, and then see you next visiting lecture. Once again, thank you very much, Dr. Chaishan, for your very, very interesting presentation this morning. Thank you.
Pak Heri, would you please to deliver a token of appreciation to Alexandra Jason, PhD, as the presenter of this visiting lecture today? Certificate
Okay,
of
yes.
appreciation.
Yes, on behalf of the study program and the faculty, yes, on behalf of the study program and the faculty, I would like to extend our deepest gratitude to Dr. Jason for her times, effort, and invaluable contribution to our academic community. Your passion for your subject matter and your ability to communicate complex ideas with clarity and depth have made a lasting impact on us all. As token of our appreciation, it is my privilege to present you with the certificate, which symbolizes the respect and admiration we hold for your work and your commitment to advancing knowledge in this field. Okay, the certificate, please.
Thank you very much. I so appreciate this recognition.
Yes, thank you for your Dr. Tyson, and we hope to welcome you back again in the future. Thank you.
Love to. Thank you. You have brilliant students.
Okay, we can go on to take a picture together. Any slide is it? Okay, 3. Okay. You can begin 1. Okay. 2, 3. Okay. Thank you. Well, okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, all lecturers, all students, all participants for joining this online visiting lecture hosted by English Department, Faculty of Humanities, Diponegoro University. We do hope that this lecture give us more knowledge and insight regarding Instagram and titillation. Thank you very much, Alexandra. Thank you, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. See you next time.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Alexandra,
Thank
Ibu
you very
Eta.
much,
Terima kasih
Alexandra.
sekali, Mbak Velia.
Thank you.
For the
See you.
invitation. Good to see you.
Saya izin live ya, Mbak Eta. Terima kasih banget loh.
Maturun, maturun Pak
Iya.
Eri. Makasih Mbak Via, Mas Edi, Mas Arga, Mas Arya di sini juga. Terima kasih.
Saya malah pengen mengkontak Alexandra untuk sesuatu yang tadi saya penasaran sebenarnya.
Silakan, silakan. Siapa tahu bisa jadi ini, bisa jadi joint research atau apa.